My favorite movie of all time is the original 1986 Transformers the movie, and has been that way for many years. As a kid, I never really knew how to answer this question, but as soon as that movie popped back into my mind, it was the definitive answer. My dad watched this movie when he was younger and wanted to show my sister and I something of his. One of the better things our dad has shown us, I'll admit. Anyway, because of this and the fact I was born in 2002, I got the chance to see the five Michael Bay Transformer films when they came out. Honestly, I much preferred the cartoons, but then again, I didn't really watch much live action media at the time. So, in the year of 2022, when I was reminded of the film and my hyperfixation of Transformers came and punched me in the face, I decided to revisit the Michael Bay films. And I hate them. I hate them so fragging much you don't even understand. So let me explain it to you, and we will talk about each film, all in their own separate videos because this is an 11-page script. Now, with that intro out of the way, I'd like to discuss why I hate the Michael Bay Transformer films. In order to do this video, I obviously had to rewatch each of the five movies, writing down my thoughts throughout the films to get a better understanding of what I enjoyed and what I hated. I also had to ask for some outside help in regards to certain aspects, which I will talk about later in the video. Side note, my Paramount Plus did not like me pausing every 5 seconds, so that was quite the obstacle. Alright, so I'm just going to run through the movie and kind of give my 2 cents on everything. Cool? Cool. The film opens up discussing the Cybertronian War, as most Transformer media begins. We are told about the Cube, which is the Allspark, but they call it the Cube for most of the movie, so I guess it's the Cube today. And this is already a big issue I have with these films, the lack of terminology from the show. In the film, Optimus Prime, voiced by Peter Cullen, doesn't call it the Cybertronian War, just the war. Hell, they're not even called Cybertronians in this universe, only Transformers, even those who work with the Autobots. That's a more personal pet peeve of mine, but it's just picky. Shut up, Frostbite, watch the fragging movie.
You've been talking about barbecue gators and cricket for the last 2 weeks. I'm never going to your mama's house, Fig. I promise.
Pero papi,
I'm not going to your mama's
papi,
house.
gators are known to have the most succulent meat.
I understand.
Un poquito de arroz con habichuela
Right.
y unos tostoncitos por el litro.
English, please.
English. I mean, how many times we don't speak Spanish? I told
Why
you
you gotta
that.
ruin it for me, man? That's my heritage. Y siempre me estás jodiendo por la misma mierda. De que...
Go with the Spanish.
I just. Alright, moving on, because this could be a whole fragging video here! The soldiers are heading back to their base, and in between cuts of the soldiers relaxing, we see an unidentified infiltrator flying through, which is taken notice of by the colonel. We learn that the numbering on that aircraft is the same as an aircraft shot down a couple months prior, as stated by someone who knew someone on that plane. We cut back to Lennox video chatting with his wife and daughter, unaware of what's going on within the rest of the base. As the aircraft arrives, with a glitchy pilot inside, the radio signal jams and the electricity cuts in and out. Soldiers begin to surround the aircraft, and we are introduced to the first Decepticon of this film, Blackout. Blackout was, from what I can tell, originally made for this film, as this was his first appearance based on what I could find. Continuing on, Blackout begins to tear through the military base, going first for the files, the colonel barely saving them as he continues to completely cut the hard lines. Causing as much destruction as possible, tanks go flying everywhere as he basically just starts chucking military tech. Blackout then releases Scorponok, who begins to tear into the sand below, attacking anyone in sight. Also, I apologize if I'm saying his name wrong. Names are hard, okay? This is not the first time we have seen Scorponok, though, as he was first introduced in the Marvel Transformer comics in Headmasters in 1987, 20 years prior to this film. It's actually kind of crazy seeing how different he looks when he started out, but his alt mode being a scorpion remains consistent over the years. Next scene we get is meeting Sam Witwicky, our protagonist for the film, and oh Lord Primus above, I couldn't give a frag about this stupid aft kid. He discusses his great-great-grandfather for a school project and immediately attempts to sell off the artifacts. My processor hurts. This kid is a selfish prick, which, yes, is normal for a kid his age, but apparently this idiot didn't get Gibbs smacked for his stunt by his family. He does this so he can get an A on his assignment, which he has to beg for because his teacher doesn't appreciate what he calls show and sell. Alright, I'm moving on before I rant for an hour. We arrive at the car place where we see a yellow Camaro with racing stripe pulling in without a visible driver. I don't think I need to spell out who this is, so Bumblebee has finally entered the movie. Sam wants Bumblebee to be his car, but the price ranges over by $1,000. So, Bumblebee being Bumblebee, destroys the other cars with a high-frequency sound that shatters their windows, and now Sam and Bumblebee are together. We change over to the Secretary of Defense meeting with people who show promise in signal analysis, discussing the incident of the guitar base, stating that, to their knowledge, there were no survivors. He states that whoever this threat was, they were attempting to hack into the network to steal files, cut off by the Colonel. Believing this to be a threat from another country, they play this sound. Lennox and his crew attempt to understand what they saw, all analyzing the image Epps took of Blackout, being disturbed by the fact Blackout clearly saw him take the photo. Lennox realizes they have to get this information back to the Pentagon as fast as possible, and Mahfouz, the young boy at the base at the time of the attack, states he lives close by and that they possess a phone, giving them a target to reach, all while Scorponok watches in the distance. The movie continues on with Sam as well as Michaela, who he has a crush on. This is honestly some of my favorite Bumblebee moments, as he starts up his radio convincing Sam to drive her home. Although I hate interactions with Sam and Michaela, mainly because the awkward teen scenarios and Sam trying to impress her makes me cringe so hard, watching Bumblebee try to be his wingman and later in the series being so sassy makes me laugh so hard. Once Sam drops off Michaela, we cut back to the analysis teams. The youngest group's leader, a young woman named Maggie Madsen, played by Rachel Taylor, deduces that no military force seems to fit the bill of this attack. This cuts to Air Force One, where we are introduced to Frenzy, another Decepticon. Frenzy is actually originally a minicon belonging to Soundwave in the original Gen 1 show, and has stayed that way for many years to my knowledge. However, he has been transferred to a different Decepticon in this film, and I genuinely hate it. I also genuinely hate how Frenzy looks, mainly because I prefer his Gen 1 design so much. It also highlights a bigger issue I have with the way these guys are made in the films. Too many unnecessary pieces, or in some cases barely any pieces that make sense. And taking Frenzy away from Soundwave is kind of upsetting to me. This is actually one of his minicons, one of 5 that he possesses, and 2 of them will be shown in the films, but not Rumble or Rat-Bat to my knowledge. Anyway, Frenzy begins to steal data on Air Force One, which triggers the US to cut all the hardlines in the middle of this data stealing, frustrating him. He speaks in Cybertronian a lot, indicated by the subtitles that states he is speaking Cybertronian, but none of this is translated until obviously needed. Likely a lot of swears, cause why the hell not? And this leads to security to travel down to the cargo to stop who they believe to be a human assailant. Only to find this Cybertronian who just shoots ninja stars out of his chest, cause why the frag not? Once on the ground, a police cruiser appears, revealing another Decepticon by the name of Barricade, another con made for this film. As Frenzy vents about being shot at, he uses his knowledge of Witwicky, Sam's great-grandfather, to track down his glasses, which are shown to possess Cybertronian symbols on it, meaning their next target is Sam himself. Back to the fragger himself, Bumblebee starts up in the middle of the night and takes off, Sam following behind him on his bike. This leads to him seeing Bumblebee in all his glory, calling out to the other Autobots. Sam then gets chased by dogs, which Bumblebee handles, and then the dumbass gets arrested for stealing his own car. Maggie attempts to talk to the Secretary of Defense, stating how this isn't just another country coming after the US, but something else that she doesn't completely understand, but no one believes her, and she is told to find proof or hush up. Finally, we're back to Lennox and his crew as they make their way to the nearest town. Scorponok returns, attacking Lennox and his team, killing one of his men, dragging him down into the sand. The people in the town grab guns along with Lennox's men and begin to attack Scorponok, but their guns don't do much to him. Then we have the single dumbest but funniest scene in the whole film.
I need a credit card! Hey, what do you want? Pocket! Which pocket? My back pocket! You got 10 back pocket! Left cheek! Left cheek! Left cheek! I can't shoot!
As Lennox attempts to phone the Pentagon, he is asked to pay for the long-distance call, which he then has to find a fragging credit card in the middle of this firefight. This is completely dumb, but I hate how much it makes me chuckle, because I could totally see this chunk happening. When Lennox finally gets a hold of the Pentagon, he hands the phone over to Epps, who requests an airstrike to attack our Scorponauts, which shocks the defense team seeing this random creature. And is stated that the closer they get, the more their communications seem to jam. As air support finishes its attack, Scorponok seems to bury himself into the sand, and a chunk of his tail comes off as he retreats. Fig is then found badly injured after the fight, and we are never confirmed if he passes away or survives, as he is stated as having a pulse when we last see him. We then cut back to Maggie, who is shown stealing data about the signal in Qatar. She takes this to Glenn, someone she sees as the only one capable of hacking this code. As they begin to dig through the files, learning of Sector 7, the FBI busts through the door, taking them all into federal custody. That was less than 5 minutes of this scene. Good job on you, Maggie. It is at this point, I'd like to point out, I'm on page 4 of this script, and less than an hour into the film. Trust me, I am trying not to talk too much, but this was bound to happen as this is a heavy hyperfixation. So, if you somehow made it this far, at a little over 10 minutes, thank you. I appreciate you listening to me ramble about giant robots. The news broadcasts that over 40 military aircrafts are seen taking off, and that there is no word from the government since the attack on Qatar. As Sam gets himself some breakfast, Bumblebee just comes strolling back, scaring Sam as he rides his mother's bike through town, Bee following close behind. Bumblebee clearly knows he's in danger, which is quickly proven by an unmarked police car popping up out of nowhere. Sam begs this cop for help, who finally shows himself. Barricade throws him aside, confirming his identity through his eBay username, demanding the location of his grandfather's glasses. He escapes, pulling Michaela off her little moped, I think that's what that is, and Bumblebee being not too far behind, pulling the two away from civilians. This is going to come back later in this film, I freaking promise you. Once they are in a quiet location, Bee transforms, him and Barricade facing off. Barricade releases Frenzy, who gets to attack the two humans while the other two fight. Michaela and Sam chop off his head, Bee fending off Barricade for the time being. They talk to Bee, who communicates via his radio, expressing that his friends are coming to them from space. Frenzy is then seen taking a new form, a replica of Michaela's phone, leaving him as a stowaway. After Michaela makes a comment about his alt mode being bad, he transforms his alt form into a much cleaner, more modern Camaro. At least for 2007. Aw, I love how petty he is. Sam and Michaela then begin to watch as the other Autobots crash land on Earth throughout the town. Optimus in a field, Jazz in a baseball field, Ratchet in the middle of a city neighborhood, and Ironhide in the pool of a family. Their forms are all very blank slate, thinner, and practically identical, which is a lot different for how they actually are in later adaptations, merely needing an alt form to better disguise themselves. We then already enter my favorite scene of the entire fragging film, Dear Primus, I love this scene! This is mostly showcased through Optimus Prime, obviously, but we get little segments of the others as well, Jazz showing a lot more of his personality, kind of dancing as he transforms, and listening to Ratchet flip his whole body around, the sound effect they use is really satisfying. And then this is where I cringe extremely hard. Jazz's first line of dialogue is, well...
What's cracking, little bitches? My first lieutenant. Designation Jazz. This looks like a cool place to kick it.
What is that? How do you learn to talk like that?
We've learned Earth's languages through the World Wide Web.
Which, dear Primus above, what the frack am I watching? It is stated by Optimus right after this, when Sam questions why he talks like this, is because they learned Earth's languages and slang from the internet. Alright, I'm gonna go bash my helmet real quick. Alright, I need to address a major elephant in the room. For those who are unaware, Jazz has always been seen for years as a black-coded character, his original voice actor in the original show from the 80s being a man named Scatman Crothers, an African-American voice actor, and whose final role for Jazz being the 1987 two-part episode, The Return of Optimus Prime, as he sadly passed away 4 months prior to the release of these episodes. I did some research, and Jazz's voice actor for this film, Darius McCrary, is an African-American actor. For obvious reasons, I don't have a large say in this discussion, as I am, in real life, a vampire, So I tried asking a couple of my friends for input on this topic to try and get a better perspective. Here's a comment from one of my friends. Also, if they sucked info from the internet, I'm not gonna lie, a lot of internet culture is stolen from black people, so to me it kinda made sense since AAVE and other slang terms are always taken and ran with online. For those who don't know, like I didn't because I am not cultured, AAVE is short for African American Vernacular English. I think the main reason I wanted to discuss this is because there is some who believe this is slightly racist, especially considering future adaptations of characters in later films and discussed by the Transformer community. Again, I don't have a say in this. I am a vampire in real life. But I wanted to bring this up as this is something talked about within the community. Continuing on, each of the bots is introduced to the humans. Ironhide, the weapon specialist, being quite trigger happy and enthusiastic about his cannons. Ratchet, the medical officer, stating that he and the other bots can somehow smell, making it clear that Sam is, well, attracted to Michaela in the weirdest way possible. And Bumblebee, a young warrior and Sam's guardian. Ratchet then states a very obvious fact. Bumblebee's processors being damaged in battle, which is still being worked on. That's why he communicates via radio. Michaela asks why they have come to Earth, which Optimus explains that they are searching for the Allspark after sending it away because of the war. We are then able to learn a bit more about Archibald Witwicky, Sam's great-grandfather. Many had saw him as being crazy after he was blinded. After accidentally turning on Megatron's navigational systems, the shot blinded him and imprinted not only the location of the Allspark to his glasses, but caused Cybertronian language to be embedded in his brain, which was why he was writing what many thought were strange symbols. So off they went to retrieve the glasses from Sam's house. So I thought I'd go over everyone's designs while we were here. Again, there are far too many pieces that are not needed, but their shape, language, and designs aren't all too bad in my opinion. Optimus and Bumblebee are obviously the best in my opinion, at least in this film. But Ratchet and Ironhide come in close second. Jazz's design seems to be the most faithful to how he is usually portrayed, so he doesn't have a bad design either. What I do think is a common issue here is how the Decepticons are shown in these films. Their facial structure is meant to make them look evil and make them overly pointy, which I understand, but it also doesn't work well here. Many Decepticons fall into this pattern, and it makes them look worse for wear. Don't get me wrong, Autobots do have some god-awful designs that outrank these ones, but obviously this is later films that I shall later discuss. We then return to Lennox and his team as they look over the piece of Scorponok that had broken off. They are trying to get a better understanding of what this is, and notice that high heat seems to negatively affect their metal casing. And in response, his pointed tail starts up again, having to be strapped down by the other men. Lennox then states they are to put these weapons aboard ships in the case any more of these creatures return, which they obviously will. As the Autobots arrive to the Witwicky residence, Sam attempts to keep the bots out of his yard, which is hilariously unsuccessful. Optimus is climbing over the fence, Bumblebee is trying to shush the others, and Ironhide gets peed on by the Chihuahua. This is probably the goofiest we see Optimus in these films, as one of my other favorite scenes is him trying to calm Sam.
Calm down, calm down.
You gotta do something.
I know this is a film, but how in the frag did his parents not notice him screaming about the fountain getting destroyed, and even more so, the giant shaking steps that they take? Whatever. After Ratchet accidentally seems to cause a more noticeable shake after accidentally causing a transformer to blow, killing the power out of the neighborhood. Another hysterical moment is watching these giant robots try to hide within the confines of the backyard. Bee and Jazz are hiding under bits of the house, Optimus, Ratchet, and Ironhide trying to avoid windows as much as possible. This is extremely dumb, as they can just transform into vehicles and get out of the backyard, but this is some dumb fun. Government officials come into the house searching for any indication of aliens, realizing that Sam himself has made direct contact with the Cybertronians. He and his family, as well as Michaela and the dog, are taken into custody, questioned about Sam's strange behavior. Simmons, the guy in charge of this operation, begins to just be an absolute jerk and creep, noting about Michaela having a juvie record because of her not turning in her father, which stupid tension stuff, whatever, before Optimus stops the vehicle and takes back the children. Little do they know, Simmons' second in command already called for backup, attempting to track down the kids and the other Autobots. Optimus attempts to hold them high up when Michaela loses her grip, causing her and Sam to fall, making B give up his cover to save them. Then they attack B with nitrogen, freezing his circuits. Sam attempts to fight back and save B, being tortured from the cold air, before Sam and Michaela are put back under arrest. This moment between Sam and B, a connection between human and Cybertronian, has to be one of the only saving graces for Sam. Optimus, much to the other Autobots' dismay, say they must allow the humans to take B, as now that they have the glasses, they can finally locate the Allspark and prevent the Decepticons from finding it first. Optimus, making this seem cruel, later in the film brings up that B is a brave warrior, and that he will push through this. He has to prioritize the mission to take the lives of the human race seriously. Ironhide asks why they bother to save humans, calling them a primitive race, in which Optimus replies, "Were we so different?" He knows the pattern that many humans show to their planet before the war and wants to prevent the same fate from happening to humans. And he consistently believes freedom is the right of all sentient beings, something I believe in this day and age needs to be known. Another agent from Sector 7 shows up in front of the Secretary of Defense in the middle of them discussing two different countries that could be responsible. The Decepticons then finally allow the virus they planted to go off, preventing communication all over. Tom Banakic then begins to show secrets kept from the rest of the government. A Mars rover mission originally seen as failing, hiding the knowledge of Cybertronians from everyone except Sector 7. Anyone involved in any of these, Maggie, Glenn, Lennox's team, defense team, Sam, and Michaela, are all taken in to learn about this more. Within Hoover Dam, everyone is taken into Sector 7, in which we hear Sam demand for his car back. This is a giant problem I continue to have in this movie. Sam repeatedly refers to B as his car, despite knowing his name. He could just tell people that this is the name of him. But does he do that? No, he just continuously calls him his car, and it frustrates me to no end, and makes me feel like there's no connection between these two, unlike what the movies want you to think. Anyway, we are shown that Megatron, known by the agents as NBE-1, has been here in cryostasis since 1935. Sam discusses the Decepticon plan, how they want the Allspark to turn Earth's electronity into more Cybertronians for their war, and the true identity of Megatron. Little did anyone realize the Allspark was also in this facility, Hoover Dam being built around it to keep it safe and secure. According to the agents, around 4 football fields of thick concrete, making it nearly undetectable. At least, until now. Frenzy enters the building, sending out a signal to Starscream and the other Decepticons that the Cube and Megatron have been located, and that it's time to mobilize. We are shown 2 new Decepticons, Devastator and Bone Crusher. Slight side note, I was trying to save files on my computer for the video, and well, let me just try to recreate my reaction. Shoot! Bone Crusher! I can't spell! This is so dumb! Anyway, moving on, both Decepticons are Gen 1 characters, though Devastator is a combination of 6 Decepticons known as the Constructicons, one of which actually being Bone Crusher. Although I'm a little bummed by not getting the original Devastator, I am still happy to see these two on screen either way. We then see the Cube's power, turning Glenn's cell phone into a Cybertronian being. I hate Sector 7 so much. They've known of this danger and not said a word until the last possible fragging moment. Alright, we are nearing the end, folks. Thanks for sticking with me, as this is 23 minutes. Oh, wow, we've been here a while. Alright, let's do this. Starscream arrives to the base, immediately attacking any human he sees. The hangar holding Megatron begins to lose power. Frenzy, somehow repairing his body off screen, whatever, cutting power and causing the cryostasis mechanisms to fail. Agent Tom tells everyone to enter Megatron's hangar, which is so fragging dumb. If you know they're cutting the power to free this giant aft bot, who has been told to you wants to destroy the world and humans as well, why would you just... Okay. So, good job, government. You're all morons. The Autobots are still quite a bit away from the base, so Sam demands to be taken back to B, which is immediately fought back by Agent Simmons, who gets tackled by Lennox and his men. They immediately free B, who is taken to the Allspark, which is shrunk down, I guess. And then Lennox, who has been the only sane person in this fragging film, suggests they take the Allspark to the city and hide it there. A city that is full of fragging civilians. But like, there's no way in hell they would actually do that, right? Right? Wait, you mean to tell me the Secretary of Defense allows this to happen? And fun fact, there is no mention of sending out an evacuation order. Hell, throughout the fight scene, many civilians are in the city, continuing as if nothing is happening until something happens. And communications with outside forces like the US Air Force is nearly impossible due to the fragging virus put in by Frenzy. Spoiler alert, they have to use Morse code to get any sort of message out to them. Explain why anyone thought this was a good idea. At least attempt to evacuate civilians, or figure out how to hide it in the middle of the desert. Anything but this. Anyway, Megatron, voiced by Hugo Weaving, escapes the facility. Starscream informs him that the cube has been taken. Megatron basically calls him a failure, as he does, then sends the Decepticons to chase them down. Lennox and his team, along with Bee and the kids, are reunited with the rest of the Autobots, who turn around and head towards the city. While trying to get communication out to the Air Force via Morse code, as I previously said, Frenzy returns to put a stop to them. Or just to kill them, because he can, because why not? They get out a message calling for a Blackbird. As the bots and humans drive along, the Decepticons join in on the fight. During this, Optimus kills Bonecrusher after he kills multiple people on this highway. Cut back to Frenzy, then getting killed by his own ninja star in the Air Force, stating they are sending F-22s to the city. Rest in peace, Frenzy. I will actually miss you. This makes a very interesting detail in the story, and I think this is important to note. Unknown to the humans below and too late for the Autobots, the F-22 in the air when they arrive isn't actually the Air Force. Starscream's alt mode is an F-22, which leads Bumblebee to become severely injured, losing his legs in the blast. Sam cries out to him, using his name for the first time in a while, begging him to move. Epps notes that normal F-22s never go below buildings, concluding that the shots were fired by cons. Devastator joins the fray next, a large tank that begins firing and trampling cars and people in the way. Though they are ordered to move out, Sam is scared and doesn't wish to leave Bee behind. Michaela, the badass in this film, grabs a tow truck so she can get Bee to safety, while Sam gets the Allspark. Sam is not a soldier, clearly, but he is trusted by the Autobots, seeing huge potential in him, and willing to put his life on the line for them. As this goes on, we see civilians being in the middle of this fragging fight, a problem that becomes an even bigger issue in later films. Megatron arrives, causing everyone to retreat. Optimus has fallen behind after his fight with Bonecrusher, so the Autobots around know that their safest option is to fall back. Jazz is shot, taken by Megatron, and pulled apart into two, killing him in the process. I am so sorry, bud. As Devastator gets back up after fighting with both Ironhide and Jazz, Blackout returns as well, the same bot who started all this for Lennox and his men back in Qatar. Lennox notices a building where Sam is to take the cube and hand it off to the military, to which he tries to reject. Again, Sam isn't a soldier. He's a 16-year-old school student who was taken out of his suburban everyday life and put in the middle of an alien war. But Lennox pushes him that he needs to do this, and he cannot leave his men behind, and that Sam was clearly chosen to do this by Bee and the other Autobots. Ironhide and Ratchet say they will protect him. Human, lovey-dovey moment I couldn't give a frag about, and then the fight truly begins. Optimus arrives, immediately challenging Megatron, who flies him through an entire building full of people. Megatron states that Optimus shouldn't be protecting the humans, that they deserve to die, in which Optimus replies, they deserve to choose for themselves. Also, something I noticed while watching, Optimus falls onto the ground that had people all over the sidewalk, and yet on complete accident, no humans are crushed by him, and only barely missed. When I go back and watch the other films, I want to see if this holds up over time, but it is something interesting I wanted to put in. And Decepticons don't seem to get this treatment, but also they couldn't care less if it happened or not. Sam continues his sprint towards the rendezvous point, Starscream being in his way, who then gets into a fight with Ironhide and Ratchet, and Megatron also beginning to chase him down. At some point, Sam falls to the ground and causes the Allspark to activate, creating many Cybertronian creatures, one of which is some creative marketing from Mountain Dew, and another one that becomes a face hugger on this girl's face. What the frag? Sam enters the rundown building, Megatron hot on his tail, while Michaela is seen taking the injured Bumblebee back into the fray, driving him through the wreckage to shoot down Devastator, which kills him in the process. Sam arrives to the top of the building, setting off the flare to signal the choppers. Starscream is literally seen off to the side just watching this happen, right before he just blows up the choppers. How nobody, whether it be Sam or the 3 different choppers, never saw Starscream is completely beyond me and hurts my processor. But then again, that's movie logic, I shouldn't look too much into it. Optimus runs after Sam, as Megatron offers him 2 choices: give up the cube and be his human pet, or die. He refuses, to which Megatron breaks the column he was holding onto, causing Optimus to grab hold of him, protecting him even after Megatron knocks him to the ground. Megatron and Optimus face off once again, Optimus saying his signature line, and their fight begins. Blackout returns, intending to make the fight unfair. Lennox and his crew intend to stop him. Epps and Lennox make note that the center of their chassis is weaker, leaving it to the prime target to shoot at, which is accurate as that's where their sparks are kept. Lennox and his team, with the help of friendly F-22s, fire at Blackout, Lennox sliding underneath him and shooting what looks to be a grenade into his chassis, ending Blackout once and for all. Optimus and Megatron continue their fight, Starscream attempting to get in the way of the Air Force shooting down at Megatron and the soldiers aiming back at him. Optimus begs for Sam to put the cube into his chest, sacrificing himself to save humanity. Sam disobeys, placing the cube into Megatron's chest instead, killing him. For now, this is Transformers. These 2 don't know how to die. The fight is over for now. Bumblebee's voice box comes back online, wishing to stay and be Sam's guardian, and mourning the loss of Jazz. As the movie closes out, Sector 7 is shut down as ordered by the President. The Decepticons are buried at sea where the pressure and freezing temperatures shall ensure they stay dead, and Lennox and his team return home. As Linkin Park begins to play in the background, Sam and Michaela making out on top of Beast's hood, that poor boy. The movie fades out, and in the middle of the credits, Starscream is shown to have survived, taking off into space to who the frag knows where. Holy fragging Primus, this is so long, but believe this was the best way to do this. Holy fragging Primus, this is so long. But now to move on to more things I didn't bring up. Something I didn't immediately point out is that poor Megan Fox, the actress who played Michaela in this film and the next, is the heavy sexualization to her throughout the film is well known. While yes, she is an amazing character with knowledge of cars and being able to hotwire vehicles and seen as an absolute badass, that all seems overshadowed due to what she is for this film. Eye candy. Hell, I've heard from people in real life whose favorite part of the 2 films she takes part in isn't the robots, isn't the fight scenes, it's her. This was clearly a way to fill seats in theaters, and I hate that. Many reasons she was fired was due to the fact she was unhappy with how Michael Bay ran his sets, and her co-star, Shia LaBeouf, stated that the highly sexual angle she was pushed into because of her role in the franchise, she was never okay with. Another issue I have is the humans. Yes, the human characters can show themselves to be good characters, but mainly when they work with the Cybertronians. Over the next couple films, I'll have better examples as to how this can be done right, but also because too many of them, especially those with power, are shown to be the biggest fragging morons I've ever met. Again, why was their best option to take the Allspark into a populated city full of civilians when they knew this would turn into a firefight with giant killer robots? And this sort of behavior continues into the other films as well, which just gets more innocent people killed. Overall, this film is decent and gets a 5 out of 10 from me. The dialogue is cringy as hell, the humans aren't really that interesting, but the bots are the highlight of the film, obviously. I thank anyone who sat through this extremely long video, and I wanted to thank you for the massive support I got on my last video. Holy Arceus, last time I checked, it was over 100 views and 13 likes, and that's the most I've ever gotten. I was so happy. And to all my new subscribers, hi, welcome to your new hell. Listening to this autistic person speak. Alright, well, I'll see you in my next project, whether it be an older script I worked on months ago, or the next Transformers film, Revenge of the Fallen. And that will be even longer. Thank you all, and have a good night. I'm currently testing to see if the ambience is any better under the blanket. If not, I'll go sit in the closet. Even though I'm out and proud, I'm gay! More ambience testing to see if out of the blanket is any better. I'm now in a closet full of clothes. Maybe this will be better, but there's no door. Final test. Let's see if the echo does anything, but probably not because there's no clothes in here.